A true New England nor'easter sweeps through the town of Arlington, making for a messy two-day commute for area motorists and leaving some natural trash in its wake. ACMi News went around town, and tonight, an update on Arlington's cleanup efforts. Phase 1 of the Whittemore Park project is complete, and Arlington's leaders wanted to celebrate, but nature had other plans. Still, we'll show you what improvements have been made before the next phase gets underway. Overdue but sincere accolades for a former select board member who was honored for his past accomplishments and dedication to the town of Arlington. An environmentally friendly volunteer effort takes place this week near the Minuteman Bikeway to get bicycles in the hands of those who really can use them. And no surprise, Arlingtonians came through in a big way. All this and much more as ACMi News starts right now.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Heavy rains and high winds struck Arlington hard this week. Hello, I'm Nicole Garay.
And I'm James Milan. The North and South Shores got hit the worst. Cape Cod was slammed hard with this end-of-the-month nor'easter as well. At the peak of the storm, nearly 500,000 homes were without power, and many still are.
Arlington was not hit as bad as those areas, but that doesn't mean that the town got away scot-free either.
Arlington was hit with several high wind warnings from the afternoon hours of October the 26th to the late afternoon hours of the 27th. Those National Weather Service warnings stayed in effect for nearly 48 hours in our area. Arlington was hit with north winds gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour on average, at times reaching nearly 60 miles an hour. You can see we were among the troubled spots in this National Weather Service map this week. By the 27th, the winds were sporadic, milder gusts followed by some higher winds. The U.S. flag was anything but dormant at Town Hall in the early morning hours. Still, construction crews were hard at work by the 27th. The high winds and heavy rains not deterring their routine at Arlington's new high school. Along Mass Ave, public transportation saw few problems and were mainly running on time. The 77 bus suffered fewer than expected delays in both directions in town, despite this hazardous weather. Area highways, main roads, and side roads were clear for the most part, except for minor flooding, especially in areas where storm drains were clogged with fallen leaves. Some trees, however, were picked clean from the overnight and early morning wind gusts, leaving some branches and twigs to fend for themselves on streets and parking lots. For the leaf peepers, this year has not been kind to them, with a wet and mild start to October and the month ending with a bona fide nor'easter. You could still see the leaves changing color, but unfortunately this autumn, you'll now find roughly as many leaves in the trees as you will on the ground as we enter the first week of November.
Flooding closed part of Mystic Valley Parkway in Arlington Tuesday and Wednesday. That has since reopened. Town leaders say public works, police, and fire crews will continue to clear the streets of excess leaves and tree limbs for the next several days.
Because of the fierce weather this week, the Whittemore Park reopening celebration was canceled.
The event to celebrate the completion of Phase 1 of the Whittemore project was initially scheduled for Monday, October 25th. But because it was rained out, it was postponed until the following afternoon.
But when weather conditions got decidedly worse as the week progressed, town leaders called off the whole thing.
ACMi's news director Jeff Barnt was able to visit Whittemore Park before the weather took a downturn. And he says even the harsh weather can't dampen the new look of the beautiful work. Phase 1 accomplished.
Town leaders encourage residents to visit and enjoy what Phase 1 has to offer at the Arlington Center site in front of the Jefferson Cutter House when the weather becomes a little bit more cooperative. The major project planning process began 4 years ago and concluded in August of 2018, which resulted in a design that transforms the small green space at the corner of Mass Ave and Mystic Street into a focal point for recreation and civic functions, as well as a place to appreciate Arlington's cultural heritage.
And I really invite anybody to go down and take a look. Beautiful new lawn, new plantings, new pathways, new benches, new lighting, refurbished train tracks, really creating a more accessible, welcoming, comfortable space for people to gather right in the center of town. I know there's some photos that will be available. I walked by. It's beautiful. I mean, it really is beautiful. And there's more to come in the future with phases 2 and 3, which will further improve accessibility around the Whittemore Robbins house. But this phase 1 is really going to provide an improvement in Arlington Center. And I think residents will really like what they see being able to check that out.
Now, phase 2 is set to begin in the spring of 2022. It'll be increasing the pathway between Mystic Street and the Jefferson Cutter House. There will also be renovation of the side gardens on both sides. Some will be replaced, some will stay. There will be upgraded seating and just simply more accessibility. Now, phase 2 is being funded by the town of Arlington and the Community Development Block Grant Program. According to the town website, town officials hope to stage a celebratory event after phase 2 is complete in 2022. For ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barnd.
As ACMi told you last week, the Select Board unanimously approved the Mass Ave Appleton Street intersection redesign at its mid-October meeting. The board has since approved a new plan for the intersection that includes a bike lane on the site and a new signal. This plan came after a vote taken last month and is a compromise that was sparked by the bicycling community. It includes incorporating safety measures that would create more visibility for eastbound cyclists pedaling down Mass Ave and westbound motorists making a left-hand turn onto Appleton Street. I spoke to town manager Adam Chapdelaine recently about the intersection, and he told me where things stand.
I think as members of the public or residents of town know, there has been tragedy and injury at that intersection. So the town has undertaken efforts to make short-term improvements to the intersection, and we're going to continue to pursue longer-term improvements, more permanent improvements to the intersection. And over the past several board meetings, there has been debate and discourse about what the right short-term solution is. And as I think we see with many transportation projects, there is a sort of a push and pull between bike and pedestrian accommodations and parking for local businesses. So there had been a proposal brought forth which would have reduced a certain amount of parking spaces and provided bike lanes both eastbound and westbound. And the board actually was gridlocked on that issue because one member needed to recuse themselves based on a conflict with one of the businesses. So what had been adopted 2 meetings ago were improvements that would improve the safety of the intersection, but without a dedicated bike lane, either eastbound or westbound, which was quite upsetting to some advocates for bicycle safety. A member of the select board reached out to me in immediate follow-up to that meeting, expressing an interest in pursuing a potential hybrid option, which would provide further bike accommodations, but retain a certain number of parking spaces, not all of them, but some parking spaces most close to the business strip in the area. So Mike Rademacher, Dan Amstutz from the planning department began working immediately with the private engineer that we had hired to draw the improvements up in the first place. And they came up with a hybrid solution that provided all the same safety improvements of a bump out coming down from Appleton Place, bollards in the middle of the road to somewhat control the left turn from Mass Ave onto Appleton Street, but also being able to put in an eastbound bike lane. Not a westbound bike lane, but an eastbound bike lane, which provides a bike lane through what we would call the conflict zone of bicycles coming eastbound and vehicles turning left off Mass Ave onto Appleton Street. And ultimately, it was presented to the board last Wednesday, and the board 4-0 agreed that it was a compromise that enhanced safety while acknowledging the parking needs of the local business district. So that was approved, and we've quickly lined up the painting contractor who will begin, has I think started grinding out some of the old pavement markings, and we hope to get the new pavement markings on the ground within the next 4 to 5 days.
The new bike lane is expected to be installed before the end of the year. The signal should be installed in early 2022. Chapdelaine told me that town leaders are taking this matter very seriously.
The Select Board on Monday, October 25th, unanimously approved the town manager's final recommendations about how to spend $35 million in American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funding. Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine made several changes to the plan over the past 2 weeks. Those changes include premium pay for the town and school's essential workers, currently set at $4 million, $500,000 in premium pay for private sector essential workers, and the allotment for food security is now set at nearly $400,000. For more information on where ARPA stands now, go to the town's website, arlingtonma.gov. Meantime, former Select Board member Joseph Curo, who resigned from the Arlington Select Board earlier this year, was remembered by his colleagues at the same Select Board meeting. You'll recall Curo ended his time on the board February 12th, citing personal and professional reasons. He had already announced in 2020 he wasn't seeking re-election. Still, the Select Board opened the meeting with a round of kudos for Curo, which lasted more than 25 minutes.
Joe, I could go on, but if I do, then I won't be able to complain, when the meeting goes until midnight. So I'm going to cut it short and let other people have a word, but I will end by not only saying that I love you very much, and not only that, I like you a lot, but then I'll show you. So there you go. Take care.
Thank you, Len.
Well,
That's very
Thank you,
kind.
Mr. Diggins.
You have always loved people of this town. You have always celebrated the accomplishments, particularly of artists and of people working for peace, justice, and equity, and so many other things. And you have been an inspiration to me in my public service and to so many, and have showed us how it's done. So for that, I am grateful. For our friendship, I am grateful, and I'm glad that we had a chance to make you sit here and listen to this tonight.
It's certainly big shoes to fill, both on the board from as a member of the select board, but also just in town, who can wear all the hats that you wore, whether it be leading the Fox Parade or dressing up in full garb for for Paul Revere to come by. I don't know if anybody on the select board so far has been able to step up and take on that role.
Whenever I saw you say, pardon me, folks, but I've written down some thoughts here that I'd like to share with you. I sat back and I truly enjoyed each and every one of them. They were so heartfelt, so filled with emotion. And I literally, honestly hung on every word, which sometimes that's hard.
Joe has such a great singing voice. We never really wanted to interfere with that. And
Mrs. Mahan does too. She just doesn't share it that much.
But anyway, it's great to see you here tonight, and we still see you around town. And as you can see, all the members here, we so appreciate everything that you've done for the community, and the floor is yours now.
As you all know, I did have to leave 2 months early, rather abruptly. And I want to just say here, like publicly, I want to thank, all of the folks who reached out to me. They were concerned that it might be health issues that had precipitated that. But I want to just assure you that it was another set of personal and professional considerations that I just had to focus on with eagle eye, and the time was it paid off in the end, being able to have that time. So I thank you for your indulgence, and I am sorry for having hit the exits a little bit prematurely there.
Curo was elected to the Select Board in 2012, and Joe, we sure appreciate all you've done for us over the years here at ACMi.
The mask mandate for all K-12 public schools in the Bay State has been extended through at least January 15th, and for the moment, that includes Arlington schools. This from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education on October 26th. Education leaders say this extension will allow more time for younger students to get their COVID-19 vaccinations. State officials say vaccines for children are expected in Massachusetts as early as the first week of November. There is still the option to lift the mask requirement if schools can prove at least 80% of all students and staff are vaccinated and have the proper documents to prove it.
Town leaders and Arlington firefighters are asking residents to adopt a fire hydrant in their communities. Why? To cut down on the time it takes to douse fires over the winter months. As you're shoveling your pathway and sidewalks when the snow flies in, firefighters are asking that you take the extra step of shoveling around your nearby fire hydrant. This request is for homeowners and business owners alike. That way, in the unlikely but possible event of a nearby fire, a clear hydrant can be a time saver. Firefighters can immediately hook up to the hydrant when fire breaks out over the cold winter months. There are currently more than 1,400 fire hydrants throughout Arlington, so your help in making the hydrants accessible to firefighters could just possibly save lives and property.
And it turns out fire hydrants aren't the only things up for adoption. During storm events like the recent nor'easter, rainwater flows along gutters and into the storm drain system through grates. That includes the leaves now falling off the trees this time of year, and we just saw plenty of that. Debris like leaves and even litter can be carried with the rainwater and accumulate on top of the catch basin grates. This blocks the flowing water from entering Arlington's drainage system, increasing the risk of street flooding. There are over 3,000 catch basins in town, and while the Arlington Department of Public Works does what it can to clear the basins, it's not always that easy. That's why the DPW is asking residents and business owners to help reduce the risk of street flooding by adopting and maintaining a catch basin in their neighborhood. Clear any debris from the catch basin grate prior to a storm when possible, and dispose of it into your garbage or yard waste. Earlier this month, the Zoning Board of Appeals held its latest hearing about the comprehensive permit for Thorndike Place, the long-awaited housing project proposed for the Mugar site near Route 2. The first deliberation hearing to reach a decision came at the end of the month. Recently, a memo from the developer's lawyers laid out the builder's terms for the 12-acre conservation parcel. Instead of its original promise to deed that land to the town, the developer is now saying it should continue owning the land, subject to certain restrictions on building at the site. Some residents are concerned about transferring the parcel over to the builder, saying that's contrary to what was first laid out.
I know that there's been a lot of discussion in the town over the past, 3-4 days, something like that, to do with this open space parcel and the fact that the applicant's now going to retain ownership. I think originally it was proposed as a kind of sweetener of the deal, basically the open space being donated to the town, transferred to the town for control, as opposed to retained by the owner. And that now seems to have changed very much at the last minute here, it seems, or maybe I just didn't understand the MOU process, but this is kind of a sudden large-scale change. And I think it's leaving a bad taste in many people's mouths. It looks sort of like a going back on a previous promise that was an important promise made as part of the project.
Currently, the target date for the final vote on the Mugar site decision, raise your hand if you've heard this before, is set for November 23rd. Let's see what's happening with Arlington's Spy Ponders with the latest sports update coming to us from ACMi's Studio B in Arlington High School. Take it away.
Hello and welcome back to ACMi Sports Update. This week is the last week of the regular season for our fall sports, but not the end of the season for many of the varsity teams here in Arlington. Let's start out with some highlights. Last Friday, the girls played Winchester. During the first half, Arlington looked in command of the flow of the game, although the Winchester team drew first blood. The second half started out with a fantastic save by Winchester's goalie after a free kick by Arlington. Winchester scores again midway through the second half, and Arlington got some good chances but didn't manage to get on the board. Arlington lost the game to Winchester with a score of 3-0, and the girls are now 12-3-0 on the season. They are 17th in the state, and they are playoff bound with only a handful of games left. Now on to boys soccer. On Friday, October 22nd, in a matchup at home against Winchester, the 8th-ranked Arlington boys soccer team won handily 3-1. Goalie Eric Woodrick lost his shutout streak at 4 games, but the Spy Ponders record remains undefeated at 12-0-4. Concurrently, the girls volleyball team was facing a non-league opponent, Concord Carlisle, and it was a dramatic game. Down 2-0, the Spy Ponders forced another set, just barely keeping the match going. They won the third set 27-25. Things got interesting as the momentum kept the girls going through the fourth and into the fifth and deciding match. Can they pull off a comeback? Unfortunately not. A series of controversial calls by the referee demoralized the team, and Concord Carlisle took the win. It was quite an eventful match. Now on to football. Arlington won in a blowout over Belmont on Saturday, October 23rd. The final score was 27-7, and Arlington's record improves to 500 on the season. Star wide receiver, defensive back, and punter Marcus Jean-Jacques came back from a minor leg injury to have two huge interceptions late in the game and sealed the win for Arlington. Now it's time for field hockey. After a rough 1-3 loss on Thursday at Winchester, the girls' field hockey team bounced back nicely with a 3-2 win at Belmont. The loss on Thursday was their first loss since opening day. On Wednesday, October 27th, they played Reading Memorial High School and left Reading at a 1-1 tie. Currently, the field hockey team is ranked 8th in the state, and 4 out of the 5 varsity teams for Arlington are slated to play in the state tournament this year. That's it for Sports Update, and I'm Corwin Dixon.
A popular Arlington restaurant that opened nearly 20 years ago is now on the market. Scutra at 92 Summer Street is now for sale to anyone who wishes to carry on its tradition of a European bill of fare, or, as the owner says, enhance it or bring your own ideas. Scutra currently has a sale price of $250,000. This establishment opened in 2002 and features dishes from the old world such as lamb sirloin, plant-based meat ravioli, haddock filet fra diavolo, and maple brown sugar glazed salmon. The owner says the reason for putting this quaint restaurant on the market is that they are retiring.
Arlington area residents once again showed their generosity in their latest voluntary effort to convert old bikes into new ones for folks who can use them. More than 100 used bicycles that once occupied the corner of a basement or collected dust in the attic were refurbished by these volunteers on October 23rd. The event took place at the Reuse and Recycling Center, mere yards away from the Minuteman Bikeway. Bikes Not Bombs uses bicycles as vehicles for change to achieve economic mobility for minorities and other marginalized people in the Arlington region, and also Central and South America.
I counted a couple hours ago at 74. I think we're well over 100 now. But it's a great haul. It's a great day. Got some really nice stuff. Not too many junkers. So very productive.
My name is Barney Kish, and I'm leading the Scouts here today at this community service. We are Troop 306 Arlington, and right now we're doing a lot of community service to get our hours and just help out wherever we can.
So yesterday I saw a sign at the beginning of the bike class. So I thought it's a good thing to name the bike. My bike has been with me for like 10 years. That's the first bike I got when I went to school. Yeah. So I'm still using it. I think it has some broken. You just need to replace it too. It will be a good workable bag. Yeah.
I'm DJ Padge, and this is my son Finn. We live in Arlington, and today we donated 9 bikes to Bikes Not Bombs. We're really happy that these bikes that have been gathering dust in our basement and our garage are not only out of our house, but also we're going to help kids who might not be able to get bikes. So we're really happy with it.
Some of those who donated their bikes for this great cause also made a tax-deductible donation of $10 to $20 per bike. That's roughly how much it will cost to ship bicycles abroad. What's happening with Arlington High students this week? We return you now to Studio B at Arlington High School for this week's Ponderscope.
Welcome back to the Ponderscope, your Arlington High School news, updates, and more. Picture Makeup Day has been rescheduled to November 17th, so there is still a chance to get your pictures taken. ID pictures are free. You can also order a family set of your pictures by picking up an order form in the main office or any dean's office. The Citizen of the Month nominations are due this week, so make sure to submit your nomination by October 31st. More details on the Citizen of the Month nominations and the Google form can be found on the Daily Post. The registrations for winter athletics are now open. The registration links can be found in the Daily Post and on the athletics websites. Tryouts for the Winter Athletics will start on Monday, November 29th. Club Day was Thursday, October 28th. We hope that everyone enjoyed checking out the many clubs available and learning about them. If you didn't get a chance to see every club or miss the event, you can find more information via the Daily Post or the Students page on the Arlington High School website. Also, thank you to everyone who visited the Ponderscope's booth on Club Day. If you'd like to join the Ponderscope crew or other filming and broadcasting clubs, email info@acmi.tv. I'm Veronica Barton, and that's all for this week's edition of the Ponderscope.
That'll do it for this week's edition of ACMi News. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Nicole Garay.
And I'm James Milan. Glad you could be with us. We leave you tonight with a pair of pitiful ghouls who couldn't stand up against the rough weather we recently endured. Look at this pathetic sight. The pumpkins apparently had no trouble. They're standing tall and proud, as well as the yellow flora still blooming under the recent gray skies and high winds. But these so-called scary creatures wanted to run home to their mommies. At ACMi, we ain't afraid of no ghosts. Good night.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.